Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Abhishek Mukhopadhyay with the Midday News. The headlines. Centre asks states to increase testing for COVID-19 and setting up of containment zones and micro-containment zones to break chain of transmission. Over 7 crore 30 lakh doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered in the country so far. Senior leaders of various political parties going all out to woo voters in 4 poll-bound states and a union territory. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges militant outfits to shun violence and contribute in making Atmanirbhar Assam. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar says government to replace all normal bulbs with LED bulbs in the next few years to reduce carbon emission and save energy. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu calls for prioritization of development and welfare of tribal communities. CBSE not to reduce syllabus for students of classes 9th to 12th for academic year 2021-22. US, South Korea and Japan agree to work together to keep up pressure on North Korea to give up its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. In tennis, 26th seed Hubert Hurkacz sets up summit clash with Italian teenager Yannick Sinner in men's singles of Miami Open. As the number of COVID cases is on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower their guard, follow all precautions and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The centre has asked the states reporting surge in COVID-19 cases to increase testing and setting up of containment zones and micro-containment zones to break the chain of transmission. It has also asked them to take immediate and high-effective measures to ensure containment of active cases and daily deaths through adherence of the standard clinical management protocol. 11 states and union territories including Maharashtra, Punjab, Karnataka, Delhi, Haryana and Chhattisgarh have been categorized as states of grave concern on account of rising daily cases and higher deaths. Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba yesterday chaired a high-level review meeting with Chief Secretaries, Director General of Police and Health Secretaries of all states and union territories. During the meeting, it was pointed out that Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities along with peri-urban areas have recorded the recent rise in COVID cases. The spread of infection from these areas to the rural areas with weak health infrastructure would overwhelm the local administration was also highlighted. The states have been asked to increase testing continuously to ensure that positivity comes down to 5% or less. Focus on ensuring that 70% of total tests should comprise RT-PCR tests and setting up of containment zones and micro-containment zones to break the chain of transmission was also advised. During the meeting, states were also asked to examine case fatality rate hospital-wise, devise appropriate strategy and mitigate concerns regarding late admission in hospitals and non-adherence to National Clinical Management Protocol. The need to formulate district action plans with a focus on mapping of cases, reviewing of ward and block-wise indicators, 24/7 Emergency Operations Centre, Incident Command System and timely sharing of information was stressed upon. In order to minimize the daily fatalities, the states were advised on strengthening of public and private healthcare resources. During the meeting, it was stressed that the message of Dawai Bhi, Kadai Bhi should be effectively and profusely spread through multimedia and multilateral platforms. In order to saturate vaccination for priority age groups in districts reporting surge in daily COVID cases, the states and UTs were advised for time-bound plan of 100% vaccination of eligible healthcare workers, frontline workers and eligible age groups, and coordination with the Union Health Ministry to ensure adequate vaccine doses. During the meeting, the Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan highlighted the current trajectory of COVID in the states and union territories, while Information and Broadcasting Secretary Amit Khare showcased ways of effective behavioral change communication to instill COVID-appropriate behavior among the populace. Niti Aayog member Dr. V.K. Paul emphasized on the need for states to follow a protocol for sharing clinical and epidemiological data for more detailed study of mutant strain of virus for genome sequencing.
Over 7,30,54,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in the country so far. Union Health Ministry said that more than 30,93,000 doses were given to the beneficiaries in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the country's COVID-19 recovery rate reached 93.36% with a total recovery of more than 44,000 people in the last 24 hours. The ministry said over 1,15 lakh people have already recovered from this disease. Presently, the total number of active cases in the country is over 6,58,000, which comprises only 5.32% of the total positive cases. More than 89,000 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in the country in the past 24 hours, taking the cumulative positive cases to over 1,23 lakh. The Health Ministry said 714 deaths have been reported in the last 24 hours, taking the total to 1,64,110 across the country. Telangana, for the first time in the recent past, reported over 1,000 COVID-19 cases on a single day. The state registered 1,078 cases during the past 24 hours, taking the total number of COVID cases to over 3,10,000 in the state so far. The total recoveries in the state has reached over 3,02,000 with 97.22% recovery rate.
In Madhya Pradesh, active COVID cases stand at 19,336. The state registered a total of 2,777 new COVID-19 cases yesterday, while 1,482 people have recovered from infection. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
The COVID positivity rate in the state is 10.4%. State has also reported 16 new fatalities. The death toll in the state has reached 4,014. Indore reported highest 682 new cases, while Bhopal reported 528 cases. The number of active cases in both cities is more than 4,500. Meanwhile, state government has sent the teams from capital Bhopal to the 4 districts of the state, Khargone, Batul, Chhindwara and Ratlam, where the infection is more severe. Teams sent with senior officials in these districts will look into the arrangements for the control of COVID infection. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has said that the number of beds in hospitals has also been increased where there are a large number of infected patients. Pooja Pivardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
In Bihar, COVID-19 cases are rising sharply with 662 new cases being reported during the past 24 hours. With this, active cases in the state have mounted to 2,363. Health Minister Mangal Pandey said 522 containment zones have been made throughout the state. Out of these, 345 containment zones are in rural areas. Detection of positive cases has been intensified in the containment zones.
Maharashtra has become the first state in the country to cross the mark of 7 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Yesterday, more than 3,28,000 beneficiaries were vaccinated in the state. Our Mumbai correspondent has filed this report.
Till date, more than 29 lakh patients have tested corona positive in Maharashtra, out of which more than 24,57,000 were recovered. A total of more than 2 crore tests are performed in the state and 14.1% tested positive for corona. State has also taken lead in COVID-19 vaccination. As per Ministry of Health and Family Welfare's data, till today morning, around 62.5 lakh beneficiaries have taken first dose, while 7,80,000 have taken second dose of COVID vaccine. For last 2 days, daily, more than 3 lakh doses were administered to beneficiaries. Maharashtra Chief Minister has said that the state has capacity to inoculate 6 to 7 lakh beneficiaries per day, but this target can be achieved with increased supply of vaccine. Jeevan Bhavsar, AIR News, Mumbai.
After the completion of the first and second phase of assembly elections in Assam and West Bengal, focus has now shifted to campaigning for the remaining phases in the 2 states. 8-phase elections has been held in West Bengal, while Assam is witnessing 3-phase assembly elections this time. Voting for the third phase will be held on the 6th of this month for 40 seats in Assam and 31 seats in West Bengal. On the same day, single-phase polling will also take place for assembly elections in Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry. Besides the by-polls to Kanyakumari Lok Sabha seat in Tamil Nadu, where there are 12 candidates in the fray, and also for Malappuram parliamentary seat in Kerala, where 6 candidates are contesting, will also be conducted simultaneously. Senior leaders of various parties are holding rallies in the 4 poll-bound states and the Union Territory to woo the voters. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is addressing election rallies in West Bengal and Assam today. Holding a rally at Tamulpur in Baksa district of Assam today, Prime Minister Modi urged militants outfits to shun violence and to contribute in making Atmanirbhar Assam. He said that the NDA government is working towards bringing permanent peace in the state, and the result has been seen at the Bodoland territorial region in the last 1.5 years. He appealed to the militants who are still out of peace purview to return mainstream. The Prime Minister alleged that the Congress rule in Assam witnessed violence, mob and use of arms. The Prime Minister in his last poll meeting in Assam said that the NDA government is committed for the all-round development of all sections of people. He also promised to intensify development works in the state once the election process is over.
बीते 5 वर्षों में डबल इंजन की एनडीए सरकार ने असम की जनता को डबल फायदा दिलाने का प्रयास, असम में हो रहा विकास यहां पर कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ा रहा है, असम में हो रहा विकास यहां पर लोगों का, महिलाओं का जीवन आसान बना रहा है, असम में हो रहा विकास यहां पर नए अवसर बना रहा है, नौजवानों के लिए अवसर बढ़ा रहा है। ये काम हमारी एनडीए की सरकार ने किया है।
In West Bengal, several star campaigners and stalwarts are holding election rallies and road shows today. Prime Minister Modi will hold 2 rallies in Hooghly and South 24 Parganas district of West Bengal this afternoon. More from a correspondent.
Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address 2 public meetings back-to-back in Tarkeswar and Sonarpur. BJP leader and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is also holding election rallies. Addressing a rally in Raidighi, Trinamool Congress leader and Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee lashed out at BJP on the issue of CAA, NRC and NPR. She also took swipe at AIMIM and ISF of Furfura Sharif over propagating communal slogans in the public meetings. Leaders of Sanyukt Morcha like Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, Abbas Siddiqui and other star campaigners also campaigning vigorously in favor of their party candidates. Dharmendra Kumar Rai, AIR News, Tarkeswar, Hooghly.
In Tamil Nadu, campaigning for the 234 assembly constituencies is reaching a crescendo, with various leaders crisscrossing the districts across the state. A total of 3,998 candidates are in the fray for the assembly polls. Amid prediction by the Met Department of heat wave condition in many parts of the state, additional 2 hours have been given for campaigning tomorrow. DMK MP Kanyamuri has cancelled her campaigning as she was tested positive today. More from our correspondent.
With the campaigning to end tomorrow, political parties have intensified their election activities across the state. Door-to-door canvassing, public meetings, rallies, canvassing through social media are hitting high in the state. Senior BJP leader and Home Minister Amit Shah conducted a road show for the BJP and Alliance Party candidates at Thousand Lights in Chennai today. Mr. Shah will campaign at Tirunelveli later in the day. BJP President JP Nadda is campaigning at Modakurichi, Karaikuri and Kanyakumari to garner votes for his party and its alliance. DMK Chief MK Stalin will campaign in various constituencies in Chennai today and tomorrow. The outdoor campaigning will close at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Paramilitary forces conducted flag march across the state to encourage voters to exercise their franchise without any fear. Sensitive and vulnerable booths will have additional security and CCTV cameras with webcasting to ensure free and fair election. With Joy R. Murthy, AIR News, Chennai.
In Kerala, with only few hours left for the campaigning to conclude, national-level leaders of all the major political fronts are holding various meetings across the state. We have a report.
Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, speaking at the NDA campaign event in Kannur, said that the financial mismanagement of the LDF government has adversely affected the GDP of the state. She further accused that the COVID cases in the state have increased because of the inefficiency of the state government. Union Home Minister Amit Shah is also in the state for NDA campaign. Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan said in Kannur today that the opposition parties are trying to belittle Kerala deliberately. He added that both the Congress and BJP are attempting to project a false image of the state. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will address the UDF campaign in Kozhikode today. Meanwhile, all the necessary election preparations are going on in war footing in the state. Webcasting will be instituted in almost all polling stations this time to ensure transparency in the process. In places of technical difficulty, CCTV facility will be provided. Central forces and micro-observers are deployed in critically affected polling booths. Due to COVID pandemic, more polling booths have been set up in the state and necessary infrastructure have been arranged. Mayush Shah for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. sent our states to increase testing for COVID-19 and setting up of containment zones and micro-containment zones to break chain of transmission. Over 7 crore 30 lakh doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered in the country so far. Senior leaders of various political parties going all out to woo voters in 4 poll-bound states and a union territory. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges militant outfits to shun violence and contribute in making Atmanirbhar Assam. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar says government to replace all normal bulbs with LED bulbs in the next few years to reduce carbon emissions and save energy. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu calls for prioritization of development and welfare of tribal communities. CBSE not to reduce syllabus for students of class 9th to 12th for academic year 2021-22. US, South Korea and Japan agree to work together to keep up pressure on North Korea to give up its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. And in tennis, 26-seed Hubert Hurkacz sets up summit clash with Italian teenager Yannick Sinner in the men's singles of the Miami Open. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Welcome back to the Midday News. Union Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Prakash Javadekar has said the government will change all normal bulbs of 40 to 60 watts with LED bulbs in a few years from now. He said in the last 6 years of the Narendra Modi government, 2 billion normal bulbs have been replaced with LED bulbs. Addressing Sri Ram College of Commerce Business Conclave through video conference, Mr. Javadekar said this initiative will not only help in reducing carbon emission but will also save energy. He also mentioned that India is one of the leading countries in renewable energy, and at present the country's renewable energy capacity is 136 gigawatt. Mr. Javadekar informed that India has already reduced its emission intensity by nearly 26% and it is committed to cut it by 35% till 2031. On the issue of climate change, the minister highlighted that India is not responsible for climate change as its contribution to historical carbon emission is only 3%, whereas US accounts for 30%, Europe to 30%, and China accounts for nearly 20%. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has called for prioritization of development and welfare of tribal communities. The Vice President said there is a lot to learn from the tribal communities who live a simple life in harmony with nature. Mr. Naidu was addressing the 50th convocation ceremony of the Utkal University in Bhubaneswar in Odisha today. He called upon the youth to imbibe the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. Mr. Naidu asked universities and educational institutions to equip the students with 21st century skills so that they can emerge as job creators. We have a report.
Describing Odisha as special in the way that it has a sizable tribal population, accounting for 23% of the state's total population and 9.17% of the total tribal population of the country. The Vice President cited a study by the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Research and Training Institute, which revealed that the tribal population in Odisha was largely unaffected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Hailing the unique customary practices and tradition of the tribals, the Vice President said that safe distancing and hygiene norms rooted in the tribal culture coupled with the consumption of natural food have helped them stay safe during the pandemic. He called upon the universities to focus on such positive aspects of the tribal communities and include them in curriculum besides conducting research to contribute to policy formation for the development and welfare of the tribal. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation Limited TriFed has launched two interesting competitions, Be the Brand Ambassador of Tribes India and Be a Friend of Tribes India contest in association with mygov.in. These competitions have been launched with the sole objective of promoting tribal craft, culture and lifestyle. Be the Brand Ambassador of Tribes India is inviting stories featuring any tribal products from customers across the country. The contest will continue till the 14th of May. More details can be found at www.mygov.in. TriFed has also launched the second edition of the quiz called Be a Friend of Tribes India. The quiz went live on MyGov yesterday and will be on till May the 14th this year. The quiz can be taken at www.quiz.mygov.in.
The Union Home Ministry has alerted the Punjab government and asked for appropriate action to deal with illegal and inhuman practice of engaging bonded labourers by farmers in the border districts of the state. The Border Security Force BSF has informed the Home Ministry that mentally challenged people from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh are engaged by farmers as bonded labourers in the border districts of the state. The BSF had also informed the Union Home Ministry about rescuing 58 such workers in the past 2 years from the border areas of Gurdaspur, Amritsar, Firozpur and Abohar. The ministry has asked the state government to take appropriate action and inform it on a priority basis. Railways Minister Piyush Goyal has thanked the Rail Parivar for the dedication and stupendous efforts in breaking almost all records in the COVID year. In a letter addressed to all, Mr. Goyal said the Rail Parivar has emerged victorious in the wake of the unprecedented crisis due to the grit and determination. Our correspondent reports the minister also remembered the loss in the Rail Parivar during the pandemic and said it would never be forgotten. We have a report.
When we are sleeping in the comfort of our homes, there were people on tracks. When the nation came to a standstill, railwaymen never took a day off. They worked even harder during the difficult times and at a great personal risk to keep the wheels of the economy moving. Be it uninterrupted supply of essential goods, be it coal for power plants, be it fertilizer for farmers or food grains for the consumers across the country, it was railways at the forefront. 4,621 Shramik specials were run to unite families. Over 63 lakh stranded citizens reached their homes. Kisan Rail Services became the medium to connect Annadatas directly with bigger markets. 1,233 million tons of originating freight has been loaded, which is the best ever for any year. Besides, over 6,000 rail route kilometer of rail electrification works has been achieved in the last financial year. Needless to say, the nation would always remember the selfless contribution of Rail Parivar in its collective fight against COVID-19. Saubhagyakar, Air News, Delhi.
The Central Board of Secondary Education CBSE has decided not to reduce the syllabus for the students of classes 9th to 12th for academic year 2021-22. The board has released the new syllabus in which the chapters and topics that were removed in the last academic year have been restored for the upcoming academic session 2021-22. Official sources said the reduction in the syllabus was a one-time measure only for the 2021 board exams. President Ramnath Kovind was shifted from the ICU to a special room at the AIIMS in New Delhi today. Rashtrapati Bhavan in a tweet said, President Kovind's health has been improving continuously. Doctors are constantly monitoring his condition and have advised the President to take rest. President Kovind had undergone a successful bypass heart surgery in AIIMS.
The United States, South Korea and Japan have agreed to work together to keep up pressure on North Korea to give up its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. The decision was taken during a high-level security talks held between the three countries. In a joint statement after talks yesterday, U.S. President Joe Biden's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, his Japanese counterpart Shigeru Kitamura, and South Korea's National Security Advisor Shu Hun reaffirmed their commitment to address the issue through concerted trilateral cooperation towards denuclearization. The three countries also agreed on the need for full implementation by the international community of United Nations Security Council resolutions on North Korea, preventing proliferation and cooperating to strengthen deterrence and maintain peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. Taiwanese prosecutors have sought an arrest warrant for a construction site manager whose truck is believed to have caused a train accident that killed at least 50 people. The authorities warned today more bodies could be found in the wreckage. Taiwan yesterday witnessed worst rail accident in 7 decades after an express train hit a truck that had slid down a bank next to the track from a construction site.
People in China got another opportunity to experience the soul of India, this time through its food, as they flocked to the 7-day-long Indian Food Week organized at a hotel at Beijing. The festival concluded yesterday. Indians, Chinese and people of other nationalities alike savoured diverse delicacies, Indian masala tea, Indian chaat, pani puris and chow mein, along with delectable desserts like kulfi. there was something for everyone. There was also a special counter offering different varieties of salads. Live counters were a special attraction which allowed the foodies to adjust the taste as per their choice. A report from our Beijing correspondent.
Any Indian food festival is every food is heaven. It's not just about eating but to have an experience. Beautifully decorated food stalls presented dishes from different Indian states, giving a glimpse of mini India to the visitors. Indianness in plenty, they not only enjoyed the food but also got a glimpse of India's culture and its diversity through a range of tastes onto their plates. They said there is no better way to experience the soul of India than trying out its variety of food on offer. They are also curious to understand Indian culture and loved the way the food was prepared and the stories associated with different delicacies. After Beijing, this Indian Food Week will be now organized in Shanghai this month. Anshuman Mishra, AIR News, Beijing.
Back home in Jammu and Kashmir, Amarnath Yatra, scheduled to commence from the 28th of June this year, is likely to receive a footfall of about 6 lakh pilgrims who would pay their obeisance at the Holy Cave Shrine in South Kashmir Himalayas. More from our Srinagar correspondent.
The registration for the upcoming 56th annual pilgrimage to the Himalayan Cave Shrine of Shri Amarnath Ji in South Kashmir has already begun from 1st of this month for both Pahalgam and Baltal routes through 446 designated banks across the country. The health certificates issued by doctors or medical institutions duly authorized by the state governments or union territory administrations is mandatory to undertake the yatra. The people under the age of 13 years or above the age of 75 years and women who are more than 6 weeks pregnant would not be registered for the yatra. The 56-day yatra to 3,880 meters high Holy Cave Shrine of Amarnath Ji is expected to receive a footfall of 6 lakh pilgrims this year. Sunil Kol, AIR News from Srinagar.
News just in. Amid a sharp rise in corona infection and death over the last several days, Bangladesh has announced that a countrywide lockdown will be imposed from Monday.
In tennis, defending champion Ashley Barty will meet Canada's Bianca Andreescu in the women's singles final of the Miami Open tonight as per Indian Standard Time. In the men's singles, 26 seed Hubert Hurkacz has set up a summit clash with Italian teenager Yannick Sinner tomorrow, while Poland's Hurkacz defeated Russian 4th seed Andrei Rublev 6-3-6-4. Sinner rallied past 7th seed Spaniard Roberto Bautista Agut 5-7, 6-4, 6-4 in the semi-finals. In the men's doubles, Croatian team of Nikola Mektic and Mate Pavic will meet British pair of Dan Evans and Nepal Skupsi in the finals tomorrow.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi is likely to have a maximum temperature of 35 degrees Celsius. It recorded a minimum of 15 degrees. Srinagar is witnessing mainly clear sky. Jammu with a mainly clear sky will see the temperature rising to nearly 30 degrees Celsius from a minimum of 14 degrees. Leh is having a mainly clear sky with maximum temperature rising up to 9 degrees Celsius. Minimum was -4 degrees. Gilgit is expected to have 24 degrees Celsius as an upper limit of temperature and mainly clear sky. Muzaffarabad is having a mainly clear sky too, becoming partly cloudy towards evening. Over 15 lakh flowers of more than 64 varieties are in full bloom on the foothills of Zabarwan mountain at Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir. People will get an opportunity to witness the blooming flowers during a 5-day tulip festival which gets underway in the Union Territory this afternoon. Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised the beauty of Kashmir in a tweet last week and urged people to visit the majestic tulip festival. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Sent asked states to increase testing for COVID-19 and setting up of containment zones and micro-containment zones to break the chain of transmission. Over 7 crore 30 lakh doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered in the country so far. Senior leaders of various political parties going all out to woo voters in 4 poll-bound states and a union territory. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges militant outfits to shun violence and contribute in making Atmanirbhar Assam. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar says government to replace all normal bulbs with LED bulbs in next few years to reduce carbon emission and save energy. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu calls for prioritization of development and welfare of tribal communities. CBSE not to reduce syllabus for students of classes 9th to 12th for academic year 2021-22. US, South Korea and Japan agree to work together to keep up pressure on North Korea to give up its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. In tennis, 26th seed Hubert Hurkacz sets up summit clash with Italian teenager Yannick Sinner in men's singles of Miami Open. And with that, we end the midday news.